So before we dive in, I want to welcome you to the 50th episode of this podcast. This, of course, is Seared, Stories from the Stove podcast. My name is Paul Silva. Always was, ever will be, as far as I know. I want to acknowledge you, yes, you, who are listening. Whether it's your first time stumbling upon the podcast or maybe you've been here since day one. Hi, Mom. Listen, I'm not going to wax poetic. I know you're here for a good time, not a long time. And so I just wanted to say thank you, and that it's been a blast doing this. You know, the podcast has definitely shifted in some ways. Originally it was video and audio, and now we're just doing straight audio with fewer bells and whistles. And that's just how it goes. You know, you do something, you start something, you don't have a final vision for it. You play around, you experiment, and you start to settle into what works, and then you adjust along the way. And that's what I've been doing here. And this isn't my first podcast. I had one called Buzzkill, which was years ago, and that was about addiction recovery and stuff. I had another one. I think it was Longing for the Spirit. I pod faded, which means, so pod fading is when people just kind of abandon their podcasts. I sort of think of them as, cars on cinder blocks on in the backs of some alleyway or on the front yard of someone's trailer park home or something, never to be on the road again. And that's what I did with that one. I started that one. It was a bit of a mess in terms of what I really wanted out of it. So this is my third podcast. I've done many videos, as you know, and listen, there are over 4.4 million podcasts out there. Years ago, it was only like 2. So this is just jumping. I guess the pandemic really exploded the podcasting. But the fact that there's 4.4 million and you're here, that's something I'm truly grateful for. So thank you. And hey, would I love more listeners? Of course, who wouldn't? What podcaster would say, nah, I'm good? I hope that if you find this podcast helpful or entertaining or inspiring in any way, that you can share it to friends or on your social channels. That would be so groovy. That would make a difference to yours truly, who, again, I'm just doing this for fun and for free. My first goal, first and foremost, for Seared was to come up with stories about my chefing career and share those insights from those situations, challenges, etc. And in many ways, that's still the core. But what I find these days that it's less specific about, it's less about a specific story and more about maybe the industry itself or aspects of my own experiences through a culinary lens and how that can help you in your life. Because at the end of the day, this is about sharing stuff to help you. I mean, I know the stuff. I've experienced it. But a lot of the times, I'd say almost all the time, when I share something, it's probably because I need to hear it. So this isn't just about me dispensing wisdom like someone dispenses Pez, because it is about being of service to you. And how I do it is different, right? I also do TikToks and Reels and YouTube videos and such. And currently I'm writing a book. So there's different aspects and different ways that we can help others. So it's not how much, how it comes across, but that it gets put out there. And if there's something that you're looking to do, that you've wanted to try, that you want to just put just your little pinky toe into the water, this is your encouragement to do it. I hope this inspires you to put yourself out there in whatever capacity that means. That could be in a relationship, leadership, self-development, friendships, whatever it is, you can do it. I'm just this goofy guy in front of a mic. That's what I do. And you don't have to do a podcast, but maybe there's something in your heart that is aching to be released. So this is your message. This is your clue. This is your moment, your permission slip to go do that thing. Anyway, let's get down to brass tacks, homie. You won't know this, of course, and you only know because I'm telling you this, but I had something kind of pre-thought and outlined, and I recorded 15 minutes of what I thought was my episode this week, but I scrapped it. I didn't like it. I wasn't pleased with it. And so I said, forget it, and we're going to do something different, which is what you're going to hear now. And this is totally unscripted. Not that I'm scripted, I have outlines, little bullet points here and there just to keep me on track, because I like to go off track. Kind of like ATV, I go off track. And so, one thing that's come up, and this may date this, I try not to do current events because I don't like dating all this, but what's been really in the news lately, and today it's just been really tumultuous the last week, is this TikTok ban. And I'm on TikTok. You can find me, The Real Paul Silva. I enjoy TikTok. I struggled with TikTok at first because when I got onto it a couple times, I didn't like it. I thought it was very negative, and the vibe and all that, and it was just like, oh my gosh, it was like going into a mosh pit for the first time. You're like, oh my Lord. And then once you jump in, like you're flung about, and you enjoy it. You might lose a boot or a scar, or something, but you enjoy it. You get into the rhythm of it, and that's what I found with TikTok, and I've really grown there. I really enjoy it. I've really played around there, and like anything, you just cultivate your energy. You draw and attract, plus the algorithm does its thing, and you can curate the things you enjoy. And what I've enjoyed is seeing just the artistry and the creativity and just the musicality and just the athleticism, all that stuff, all the intelligence and the humor, and you see all this, the grace and the beauty and the kindness and the warmth and the gentleness of humans, as opposed to just the awful trashing and vile comments and all, which still are there, but I don't see as many because that's not what I look at. Like what you focus on expands, right? So anyway, there's this ban for the States. Again, I'm in Canada, so I was looking at it from the outside going, wow, this is really interesting. Now, I'm not not interested at all in the politics of it at all. That's not my angle. My angle, and I'm going to get into this I'm going to get into the culinary. Stay with me. Strap in. This will tie in. What I'm always interested in when it comes to social media is the social part, is the connection, is the energy. That's where I always find my interest. The other stuff, whatever. But of course, with a ban, that stuff does come in, like why is it, and etc. Again, I didn't care, but you have to know about it a bit. And so they banned, or TikTok went dark for Americans yesterday. As of this is the 19th. I'm recording this. And so for a while, it was really quiet. It was just all the Canadians and the Commonwealthers, really. And of course, anyone else around. And then within 24 hours, the Americans were back. We didn't even have a chance. I did a TikTok on this. Actually, it's kind of done well talking about this. And what I love, like I'm glad that the Americans are back. I wish there was a little bit of time just to kind of decompress a little, get a little. It was just too quick. Like, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Y'all weren't gone long enough. We needed a little bit of extra time. But I do enjoy the Americans coming back. Anyway, all this to say, one of the things that I enjoy about TikTok, and YouTube I can say is the same, but TikTok there's some is like what you can learn on there, and I see all these culinary channels and all these young hot shots, or these people just having fun in the kitchen, or bakers or pastry chefs, whatever. And I love it. And I always thought, man, well, listen, it's a double-edged sword. Part of me wishes that social media was around when I was doing that. But on the other hand, I was drinking. I don't know what I would have said and done on social, or other people posting stuff about me in my cups, shall we speak, in my unsavory moments. So I'm kind of glad there's nothing coming back saying, remember this, and Facebook showing me something or whatever. Anyway, I love the fact that these kids, showing off their cooking skills, getting excited, getting passionate about what they do, and showing it to the world. I can't tell you how many recipes my wife has sent me from TikTok that I've made, which are fantastic, that are staples now in my house. It's amazing. Like so many people are so creative, and I'm not talking about professional chefs either. Like people who are enthusiastic cooks or people who are using it like to be an influencer, who that's all they do is cooking and they're making some sort of revenue from TikTok or YouTube. I love that. I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's fantastic. Again, if back in the day, I totally would have been jumping on that. I totally would have been uh, looking to make that a bit of a side hustle, but still having fun doing it. And we have the technology, we have the ability. It's so easy to share with the world your skills and knowledge in anything, but especially for cooking. It's wonderful. And to have that window into understanding and knowledge and tapping into the collective wisdom and insight and knowledge base skill set, I think it's so great for people who maybe want to express that side of themselves, but maybe are afraid or figure, oh, I have to go to a culinary college and spend X amount of dollars, and I don't have that money and I don't have that time. I like that there's this delineation between, how can I say this? Like you can be a great cook and not have gone to culinary school. Like, actually, this kind of connects to what I was talking about in my previous not to be heard episode, my lost episode, because I was talking about college and stuff. And, there are students who have done their culinary training and they're shoemakers. And I say that lovingly, kind of tongue in cheek, kind of whatever, who really struggled. Like, clearly that wasn't their thing, but they did it maybe for fun and maybe realized soon after it's not a career. And that's okay. That's totally cool. A lot of people do that in all sorts of industries. Lots of people get degrees that they never use, but they still enjoy the process of learning. So I'm not casting shade on that. But you can tell the people that just love it. And you don't have to be a chef to share your culinary prowess and joy and passion to the world at all. And that's what I love about social media. So when TikTok had this ban, I was like, oh no, I'm going to miss some of those people. I don't follow a lot of chefs, but when I see them, I watch them, I enjoy it. I'd rather see that than some starchy old chef who's griping about stuff. Like maybe me. If there was a mirror, I'd be looking at it right now. But there's something to be said about social media and that sort of ability to invite people into your space. I think there's something really magical about that. Also, these channels and accounts, they help demystify foods. They show you things that maybe you never would have seen in your corner of the world. They give you access to recipes. They give you access to their skill set. And on a broader note, another point I want to kind of bring into this is, there's some stodgy old folks who suggest that screens, in dining rooms diminishes like the human touch. And technology has changed dining spaces. It has changed how we see things. We look at food influencers and we see, travelers and people critiquing. I think of Keith Lee on TikTok, who is huge, massive. And he goes around. He's just this ordinary guy with his family. He goes around. He came to Toronto even. He goes around from city to city and he pays for his own way. He actually gives money to certain people, like thousands of dollars. He I believe he gets donations, and he gives money. And anything he touches, kind of like the golden hand of Oprah back in the day. Anything he reviews well, that place gets flooded. And so, so you have something like that, which is amazing, and he's great to watch, and it's so much different from when I grew up culinary wise in the 90s and 2000, where there was the three big food reviewers in the city and that was it, and they could make or break you. And now everyone can review. There's Yelp reviews, there's people doing videos online. It's wonderful. Some people may hate it, but I think it's great because what you're doing is that you're getting real-time feedback, right? You're getting real-time feedback. You're getting information. And it unlocks, like you can unlock like a diverse audience, right? With their information, we can refine our stuff. And it doesn't mean that we create our menus just because everyone wants a certain thing. That doesn't work. Believe me, it does not work. But it does show that there's more of a connection between the chef or the restaurant or the whatever food truck or whatever it is and the audience. There's interaction online. People get to know you before they even step into your space. They know some of your beliefs. They know what you can do. They've seen pictures of your food. They've read the reviews. And so they're stepping into something that already feels comfortable in a way. And as chefs, as culinarians, you can play with that. I think the chefs that do well, the cooks that do well, the food enthusiasts that do well, they ignite their passion in others. They share it. People have certain ingredients that they make passionate, or ways of doing things, or maybe a certain type of cuisine, part of the world that they enjoy. And I like watching those kinds of things because I learn. Because even though I was in the industry for 25 years and I was a pretty smart cat, I kept on top of trends and all that, but I didn't know everything. I learned things from my dishwashers. Certain way to eat papayas and what they did with mangoes back home, and what I was like, really? Oh my God. And I would try it. And there can be, again, the stodgy old way of doing things. We shouldn't do trends and stick to the culinary roots and the basics. Basics are important. Foundational skills, important. Certain things, very important. Now, do you need to know the mother sauces to run a profitable and fun food truck? No, not at all. Or a bistro even. But you can innovate and adapt. There's so much out there to learn. But there's so much creativity and ingenuity out there that was so, like for me, when I was coming up and the internet was fairly new, the only way that I can explore the world, so to speak, was just to find websites, which not every restaurant had a website back then, and look at their menus and download them, which took forever. And then print them. I had binders of menus printed that I would look at, like, for inspiration. Now I can find videos, I can find vlogs, I can find tons of reviews and people's pictures and all sorts of stuff, gorgeous food photography and tutorials on the websites and all that you really immerse yourself in it. And I think it's such a positive development. And then you look at like the reality shows and all that, right? Where, people can see themselves as being like Top Chef. They can see that the skills out there, they're being more accessible. They're not so scary and weird, right? When I was coming in, like everything seemed, it was like Indiana Jones finding some cryptic book and you had to decipher it. That's how I felt like some of those old cookbooks were. No, the Escoffier stuff and all that. Like, it was like, oh my God, like Le Repertoire. And it doesn't take away the years of like rigorous training that some of us spent in, or maybe a year, maybe not two for me, but in culinary school. But because like I said, foundation is important. But to be a great cook, you don't have to have gone through the rigors of school. Schooling is great. Schooling is good at giving you the language, giving you the fundamentals. I think it's great. But to be a great chef, be a great cook, do you need to go to culinary school? No, not at all. And there's some people who think that, you're just a hack or a shoemaker, and I think that's just wrong. I think it's the wrong way of looking at it, right? There's so many people out there who have been cooking for so many years from family tradition who are such wonderful cooks. I remember my sister-in-law's mother, Italian, when I was in the midst of my culinary career, and she's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed to show you my food. I'm like, are you kidding? I dream of your food. I dream of it. I could never she was making orecchiette from scratch when she was a kid. She still makes it to this day, and I dream about it. So good. It's one of my favorite pastas, by the way. And so you can have like family tradition. You can have all these things blending into cooking. And a lot of it is shown on social media. And again, it all kind of comes together. And what I also love about social media with food is storytelling, right? I know people make jokes about, websites, you want a recipe and there's like this whole story of, I've made fun of that too. They do that for it's this awful thing where they have to do it and SEO and all this. But when you go to a TikTok or a reel or a YouTube video, you cut through all that. You just get to the point. But they share things throughout. They can say, like, my grandfather used to do this, or I used to go fishing with him and we used to catch this kind of it. Like, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. And chefs have the power to tell their own stories, the struggles they overcame. They can highlight the peoples and traditions that shaped their cuisine. And they can connect with audiences on a personal level. That's something we could not do back then at all. And again, that's why people were sometimes afraid to go to fine dining restaurants. Like, what is this? Who are these magical elves behind, these bridge trolls in the back? And I just think the impact of like food media, like on modern cuisine, is just incredible. I think seeing social media the way it is now has shifted the way that we cook and perceive food, how we eat even. And I think that the chefs that get it. The cooks that get it understand this. And they're the ones that can have fun with it and to influence trends, to build brands and connect with bigger audiences. And obviously, at the end of the day, we want to stay true to our roots, stay true to what this is all about. This is not about trying to get a sponsor necessarily. It's not trying to dupe anyone. It's not trying to make anyone feel bad, but to sort of inspire and educate and use food as a universal language that it is. And we get to do that through the stories that we tell and we see on places like TikTok. And so that's why when it got banned for that, 17 hours, for a second I was like, oh, I'm going to miss some of that. Now, of course, there's other creators that do that. But it had me thinking just how important and vital social media can be. I think the people that aren't on social media, especially on something like TikTok, you don't get it until you're on there. When you see the communities, when you see how people help one another and band together and share and inspire and motivate, whether it's food or dance or photography or bodybuilding or skiing, whatever it is, you just don't know. And I'm so grateful to be in a time when I can see this. I may not, I'm not going to be putting together a cooking show. I'm not going to be putting together any recipes for anyone. Those, I kind of feel like that has come and gone for me. And I'm fine with that. But I enjoy seeing it in others. And it's just heartwarming and it's fun and it's cool. And I still learn things. Even chefs get in ruts. And so when my wife sends me those TikToks and it's like, what about this? I'm like, cool, let's try it. And I'm telling you, not one TikTok recipe has failed me yet. It's fun. And so if you are a culinary student and you're listening to this and you want to jump in. I would love to see what you do. Or if you have a channel or something like that, drop it in the notes. Send me an email. I'd love to check out your channel or whatever it is. If it's Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. Who does that? Does anyone do Facebook? I do Facebook, but sparingly. Oh my goodness. And if you are let me strike that word. If you are a home enthusiast cook, someone who just loves cooking for their family, and you want to share something and you're afraid to because maybe it's too basic or boring, do it. Because what you think is basic and boring may be spectacular for someone, might be new, might be inspiring to someone else. Or if you're someone like me who's sometimes like, I don't know what to make for dinner. I love me a casserole. Believe me. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because this is social media in some way. If you're listening to this on YouTube or whatnot, we are still humans behind the screens, behind the keyboards. We're still humans, and we still desire to connect. And this is just one way. So, speaking of connect, if you'd like to watch my TikToks, I'm at The Real Paul Silva. Same with Instagram, YouTube. I am on, of course, Seared podcast. And You Are Gumbo. I'm going to get back into that because had a bit of a short break. 2 months? Is that a short break? Going to get back into that. And if this is something that you enjoyed, please share it with others. Like I said, subscribe, like, comment, the usual. I say that all the time and it probably goes over your head, but do it. I command thee. All right. You know the drill. Kitchen's closed. Now scram.